Okay, over the next couple of minutes, I want to tie together a question I got from a state legislator to our theology and our theology to Supreme Court decisions so that you might be able to see why theology matters, and also as you see what the Supreme Court said that today we would never say, you'll know how much we have lost. Because to be honest, the church has lost its own theology. Now, let me explain real quickly. The legislator gave me a call because he wanted to pass a bill to make it a crime to manufacture, sell, and distribute pornography, but also the possession of it. And he said that a friend had said, I get all that except for the possession, because where's the crime? Who's the crime committed against? And is the state going to just start going into homes looking for pornographic magazines and videos? So let me give you the answer. I said, first of all, the police cannot just go running around rummaging through people's homes to see if they might happen to have a pornographic magazine or video. There has to be probable cause to enter into anybody's home, so that's a red herring. The real question that's manifested here is, well, this is just what an individual's doing in the privacy of their home, and how does that affect the public or anybody else? Leave the individual alone. So what I said as a matter of theology is the reason that question comes up is because among Christians, and this other person was a Christian, not just the legislator, but I think the person asking him, is that we've so individualized our understanding of God's covenant that we don't understand anymore that we're not just individuals, but a humanity. And I've been talking about that in previous episodes, but let me reflect again from Herman Bavinck what he says here. That humanity, the expression of the image of God, is completed, he says, only on the sixth day, when God created both man and woman in union. What are they representing? They're representing the unity of the essence and nature of God with the distinctions of the persons. So if you want to see the image of God, there has to be a second person, and that second person would have to be drawn from the first person. He continues, not the man alone, nor the man and the woman together, but the whole of humanity is the fully developed image of God, his children, his offspring. The image of God is much too rich for it to be fully realized in a single human being, however richly gifted that human being may be. It can only be somewhat unfolded in its depth and riches in a humanity counting billions of members, and of course over time. We are not a heap of souls on a tract of land, not as a loose aggregation of individuals, but as having been created out of one blood, as one household and one family. Humanity is the image and likeness of God. And I think that really resonated with this state legislator. But I want to continue with that, because Bavinck continues and says, in both the goal and the end is a kingdom of God, a holy humanity in which God is all in all. Humanity cannot be conceived as a completed organism unless, as an organism, it's united and epitomized in one head. And of course, in the first creation, the one head was Adam, who was a type of Christ. He was the head of a humanity. And Christ is the head of a new humanity, so that there are individuals, but there's also a humanity and an organism. And if we understood the church, we would have understood the answer to the individual's question. Of course, there's a humanity that we must all be interested in, because only as I see other individual people, and I mentioned this to the legislator, do I begin to get a picture of what the image of God is. And when one individual corrupts the image of God that's reflected to me, I get a distorted picture of the image of God. And that confuses everything. Now, the Supreme Court used to believe in this understanding of humanity, and let me share with you what they wrote in two opinions. I think you'll find this fascinating because it shows what we once knew and what we no longer know. In Hopt, H-O-P-T versus Utah, 110-574 U.S., 1884, after adoption of the 14th Amendment. So this is the 1800s. The issue there was that a trial was taking place for a murder conviction, and the defendant, the accused murderer, was not present at certain parts of the hearing. Like, people will go outside of chambers even on our TV shows, right? And so the question would be, under the law, did he really have to be there at all times? And he wasn't. And the state said, well, the conviction is good because he didn't object to being present. He didn't complain. So what does it matter? It's just him, right? Here's what the court said. We are of the opinion that it was not within the power of the accused or his counsel to dispense with the statutory requirement as to his personal presence. An argument to the contrary necessarily proceeds upon the ground that he alone is concerned as to the mode by which he may be deprived of his life and liberty, and that the chief object of the prosecution is to punish him for the crime charge. It just affects him. The court says, but this is a mistaken view as well of the relations which the accused hold to the public as to the end of the human punishment. But with respect to this idea of the public, not just the public's interest in the process, but in this person, he says, the natural life, says Blackstone, cannot legally be disposed of or destroyed by any individual, neither by the person himself, nor by any other of his fellow creatures, merely upon their own authority. Wow, what an end to abortion that would be. The public has an interest in his life and his liberty. Now, that idea gets carried forward in 1997 in a case called Washington versus Glucksberg, where the argument was made that there is a fundamental liberty right under the 14th Amendment to commit suicide and have a doctor assist you. After all, it's my life. I'm the one that's going to die, right? So why would anybody else care? Notice what the Supreme Court said. History and tradition, and boy, I wish we knew our history and our tradition, provide ample support for refusing to recognize an open-ended constitutional right to commit suicide. But what they say here in this next sentence is so important. Much more than the state's paternalistic interest in protecting the individual from the irrevocable consequences of an ill-advised decision motivated by temporary concerns is at stake. See how that would apply right there to the transgenderism issue, particularly for minors? But there's something much more there, the court said, and here's what it says in the very next sentence that goes to the idea that we're a humanity and we're called to love our neighbor and to preserve our neighbor because we're preserving the image of God in our neighbor. He says there is truth in John Donne's observation that no man is an island. The state has an interest in preserving and fostering the benefits that every human being may provide to the community. A community that thrives on the exchange of ideas, expressions of affections, shared memories, and humorous incidents, as well as on the material contributions that its members create and support. The value to others of a person's life, the value to others of a person's life is far too precious to allow the individual to claim a constitutional entitlement to complete autonomy in making the decision to end that life. Thus, I fully agree with the court that the liberty protected by the Due Process Clause does not include a categorical, quote, right to commit suicide or the assistance therein. You see, when we begin to recover out of this individualism that's even rampant within evangelicalism, to understand the humanity and the truth of the significance of Jesus being ahead and Adam being ahead of a humanity, we'll know how to answer these questions and help our neighbor and preserve the image of God among us.